Farmers have long relied on tried and true methods like counting wheat stands and spikes to gauge early or mid-season crop productivity. But those methods, they can be time consuming and don't always fit with today's high yielding wheat varieties. Now new technologies such as image-based tools and spectral reflectance techniques are helping producers estimate yield more quickly and accurately. Market Journal's Mike Straub has this story.
Estimating wheat yield during the growing season is crucial for farmers to make informed decisions on inputs, harvest expectations, and marketing strategies.
Any of us that are involved in farming would like to know the future. Is it going to rain? Are we going to have major storms? So yield estimation helps us make decisions, right? And the earlier we can make some of those decisions, the better. And decisions that we may make on a wheat crop would include, do I want to do an additional top dress of fertilizer? What can I expect, to start making some marketing decisions ahead of harvest. And again, we can't predict yield absolutely, but if we can get a better handle on what we can expect.
Recent research suggests that new technology-driven methods provide more accurate and efficient alternatives for yield estimation. NDVI, which measures plant health through light reflectance, and FGCC, which analyzes the green canopy cover, have shown strong correlations with final wheat yield.
Traditional methods are going out in the field. Good farmers, can tell a good stand versus a poorer stand. But on a quantitative fashion, you can go out and you can measure how many plants you see in a given area. As it gets closer to harvest, once the heads are emerged, you can measure the number of heads and then scale that up in anticipation of what that looks like at harvest. Again, this assumes that you don't have a giant hailstorm coming through or what have you, but those are some of the more traditional methods, and there's actually a UNL NEB guide on using some of those methods. This was a research project led by one of our MS students, Maria Ciencia Wakefield, who has now gone on to her professional career. But we went through and we used those historical methods. So taking stand counts early in the season, counting the number of heads and tillers. And then we also collected with a Green Seeker handheld device, we collected NDVI data. So that is basically how green and how healthy is the leaf tissue. And then we also looked at, there's a smartphone app, you can put it on your cell phone. It's called Canopeo. And it basically just, you take a picture of a defined area, and then it counts, is it green versus not green on a pixel basis. And so, computationally, it's a lot more straightforward than like NDVI, where you need the specialized sensors to measure those data. And so we looked at those. We took readings throughout the season for those newer methods, because again, the tiller counts and the stand counts, you're kind of limited in where you can take those physiologically. But for the newer methods, we took them throughout the season, and we were able to see how did those measurements correlate with final yield. And we found that the NDVI had a little bit better correlation than some of the older methods. And then the FGCC had several that correlated relatively well with final yield at a couple different time points.
Historically, farmers have relied on direct physical measurements, such as counting wheat stands and spikes, to elevate early or mid-season crop productivity. Newer methods utilize image-based and spectral reflectance techniques to estimate yields more accurately.
The practical application is that we are still finalizing the big data set. So we used a subset of varieties in this experiment. We used just a handful of ones that were present in all of our trials, but we took the NDVI and the fractional green Canopeo data on everything in our Western Nebraska variety trials. So we have an abundance of data that hopefully we can turn into an equation. A grower can take their smartphone out, know what stage their wheat is at, and know which equation to plug their measurement in and have a better idea of what their field might do. So we will be processing this data. It takes, we want to make sure that whatever equation we put out there will be robust. The advantages of having done this data more recently is that we also can update that NEB guide and have another resource out there for growers. Because again, that NEB guide is almost 20 years old now, and we've had a lot of improvements in how we grow wheat and what genetics we have out there. And so this will be, again, newer data, more relevant to what growers are seeing in their own fields. I would just recommend that growers, as they do every year, keep an eye on things, make sure to be in contact with if agronomists, if you have questions, you can reach out to those of us at UNL that work in wheat research. There's a good solid team across from breeding and agronomy to plant pathology. So if I don't know the answer, I can usually help growers find someone that can. And then we just see what the season brings.
Implementing these advanced techniques when estimating wheat yield can enhance decision making, improve productivity, and contribute to more substantial wheat farming practices. Reporting for Market Journal, I'm Mike Straub.